You're looking at an always crowded garage area at a NASCAR Winston Cup track, and we're at the showplace of NASCAR Winston Cup racing, the Charlotte Motor Speedway at Concord, North Carolina, where they ran the Mello Yello 500 this past weekend, as well as the All-Pro Auto Parts 300 NASCAR Busch Grand National race. So we have a lot for you in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup racing, and here's what's coming up.
It was all Mark Martin in the first half of the Mello Yello 500, but on lap 212, his Folgers Ford lost his punch, leaving Davey Allison and Jeff Bodine to gamble on gas mileage. Bodine won the bet in his first race of 1991. We'll have all the highlights.
Ward Burton had the car to beat today for the All-Pro Auto Parts 300, but a late race pit decision ended up costing them as they ran out of gas with 12 laps to go in the race. This opened the door for Harry Gant to take home another NASCAR checkered flag. I'll have all the highlights.
And you'll meet David Knupp. This young man has taken his lifelong love of model car building to new heights by adding a classy touch to trophies in Martinsville, and now taking orders for cars once considered to be toys.
Today's show is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles.
Ford Truck, the best ever race.
Sales reports are in, and guess what? Ford is the leader in total truck sales for the 6th straight year. And Ford full-size pickups are #1 14 years in a row. We also make the best-built American trucks. You understand that. You understand why we stay #1.
More people are driving the best-built, best-selling American trucks than ever before.
All of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Full roast out here. We're 1,000 miles from anywhere. Is that a ship? No one will save us.
3 Miller Genuine Drafts.
Cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its real draft taste, the world is a very cool place. This is a brand new $18,000 car. Put in a leading motor oil. This is an identical new car. Put in Mobil 1. Start them up and drive. Under extreme conditions, temperatures inside your engine can reach 570 degrees. Of course, Mobil 1 costs more, but then under extreme conditions, look at what can happen to conventional motor oil. Mobil 1, isn't your car worth the extra protection?
The battle for the 1991 NASCAR Winston Cup Championship between Dale Earnhardt and Ricky Rudd was part of the news coming into the Mello Yello 500. Well, there was some other news as well. For that and highlights of the Mello Yello 500, let's go to Randy.
As the season winds to a close, 3 teams made announcements concerning crew member, driver, and sponsor commitments for the 1992 season. Kodak has signed a 2-year extension with Morgan McClure Racing and driver Ernie Irvin. Kenny Bernstein confirmed that his team with driver Brett Bodine will be switching from Buicks to Fords for 92, and that they've signed Ernie Elliott to supply the engines from his Dawsonville, Georgia shops. Chad Little and his team Fast Fever Racing have gained the backing of Team USA for the upcoming Checker 500 in Phoenix, Arizona. The fan-supported sponsorship program hopes to sign Little for the entire 1992 season. Also, legendary driver mechanic Ralph Moody was inducted into the Western Auto Mechanics Hall of Fame at ceremonies held at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Also, Dale Earnhardt's crew chief Kirk Shelmerdine won the Duran Paints 100 Sportsman race prior to the All-Pro Auto Parts 300 BGN race on Saturday. And last but not least, fly-in Brian Carson flew through the air over 300 feet to establish a new world record in a pre-race spectacular for the Mello Yello 500.
Today's Winston Cup highlights are brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
Heading into the Mello Yello 500, Mark Martin was looking to capture a $152,000 Unical bonus with his first win of 1991. And Ricky Rudd was hoping to make a dent in Dale Earnhardt's 112-point lead in the chase for the coveted Winston Cup crown. It's fair to say that Martin's Ford was the fastest thing on four wheels after the first couple of laps. And it was on lap 2 that the Western Auto Chevrolet of Darrell Waltrip would not be challenging any longer for the checkers against Martin or anyone else. There were 2 more wrecks in the first 20 laps, one involving Mike Skinner and one involving Sterling Marlin and Richard Petty before Martin began making a mockery of the Mello Yello 500. Martin drew away from Davey Allison, his closest competitor, with ease before first round of pit stops would finally find someone else on the leaderboard. But once everyone took the time to take on fuel and rubber, the race was for second. Mark tore his way through lap traffic for the next 65 circuits, and with tanks running dry, once again, cars that were potential competitors hit pit road to replenish. And that's when Kerry Teague spun in turn 4, and before his car came to a rest, he was ripped by the race car of Ernie Irvin. When the mess was cleaned up on lap 142 of the 334 scheduled, only 2 cars remained on the lead lap with Martin, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine. But they were no match for Mark. Martin continued to motor his way through the field, leading 197 of the first 212 laps. But Mark's bonus would blow up as his Ford stopped percolating and he parked it in the garage area, and he finished 35th. On lap 235, Ricky Rudd's realistic shot at the championship ended with this wreck in turn 4. Others involved: Morgan Shepherd, Jimmy Hensley, Derek Cope, Brett Bodine, and Dave Marcus. And Morgan had more than just words with Marcus before marching to the garage area. On lap 251, the final crash involving Stanley Smith and Jimmy Hensley, also in turn 4, enabled Allison and Alan Kowicki to get back on the lead lap with Bodine and Earnhardt. But Earnhardt blew up with 32 to go, finishing only 25th, yet gaining 26 points on Rudd in the chase for the crown. The race went green for the final time on lap 260, and fuel became the issue between Bodine, Allison, and Kowicki. The 2 latter Fords were forced to refuel one more time in the final round of pit stops. But Bodine ran the final 84 circuits without consideration of coming in, and he went on to capture his first win of 1991. Davey ran second. Kowicki would finish third.
No, we never considered stopping. That wasn't in our playbook today. We were going to go all the way no matter what, and I just backed off the throttle, I mean, tremendously. About half throttle all the way around the racetrack. Tried to draft with whoever I could, get a little help, save a little fuel, but I didn't run the thing wide open for about 15 laps towards the end of the race, and it worked. It saved enough fuel, and we made it.
It's time for a short break. Still to come on this edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing are highlights of the All-Pro Auto Parts 300 Busch Grand National race here at Charlotte. And we'll also meet a young man who has turned a hobby into a profession in auto racing. And as we leave you for this break, here's the balance of the finishing order for the Mello Yello 500.
When we set out to engineer the ultimate spark plug, we put in a lot of long hours. We utilized a lot of revolutionary thinking. And all the while, our competition thought we were just shooting for the moon. Unfortunately for them, we shot a bit higher than that. Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
To locate a Bosch retailer or service outlet, call 1-800-882-8101.
Hello, I'm Ned Jarrett, and this is America's Car. For nearly 40 years, I've been able to share my love of auto racing with the best sports fans in the world, you. And now I'd like to share the opportunity of joining with me as an official sponsor of Team USA America's Car. For only $125 per year, you can become an official sponsor of a NASCAR Winston Cup car. For complete details on what Team USA can mean to you, call us today. You'll love being a member of Team USA.
A company can learn a lot in 125 years. Valvoline has. You learn in the lab, you learn on the road, you learn on the racetrack. As you learn, you make your product better, and better, and better. Today's Valvoline will keep your engine cleaner than ever before, and cleaner means more protection against engine wear. 125 years of quality. That's why people who know use Valvoline.
Saturday and Sunday live on TNN Motorsports. As the 91 season gets closer and closer to the end, will Harry Gant continue to change the course of racing history? Can Dale Earnhardt keep his points lead from dwindling away? Or will the year come to a screeching halt? It's a wild weekend of live NASCAR racing at The Rock. AC Delco 200, AC Delco 500. Brought to you in part by Haviland Oil and Miller Genuine Draft. Saturday, 2 p.m., Sunday, 12:30 Eastern, live on TNN Motorsports.
Man, I could use a vacation.
Join Rusty Wallace for the ultimate vacation. Enter the Miller Genuine Draft Racing Cruise Sweepstakes and win a week-long all-expense-paid cruise to the Caribbean aboard the Norwegian Cruise Line Seaward, or one of hundreds of other prizes. To enter, call 1-900-288-4TNN. Calls cost 95 cents per minute, or send your name, address, and phone number on a postcard to this address. You must be 21 or older to win. Telephone entry deadline October 28th. Postcard deadline October 30th.
See you in the Caribbean.
Winners announced November 10th on Inside Winston Cup Racing.
The money that is won by a driver when he wins the NASCAR Winston Cup race is very important, but the trophy he receives is very important too. There's a young fellow in Martinsville, Virginia, that has turned a dream and a hobby into a profession in auto racing by making very special trophies for the drivers who win at Martinsville.
The sport of Winston Cup stock car racing is commonly acknowledged as one of the fastest growing sports in the world. Its popularity is evident in the increasing amount of personal appearances for drivers. More and more of the motorsports merchandise is being marketed and moving into mainstream America. There are collectible cards and fine works of art. And now the machines that make it all possible are being mimicked in model form by a man from Martinsville, Virginia. And they're being produced with lifelike precision for the public. David Knupp has been a model builder since he was a little boy. But now he's turned his passion for putting together plastic cars into a fledgling business.
10 months ago, we were doing it basically as a hobby. And my wife, Sherry, said, well, why not turn it in and sell them? Try to make a little money out of it. So that's where we have been up to this point. We are producing between 10 and 20 cars a week now.
The craftsmanship and detail of David's cars was so impressive that the Martinsville Speedway promoters now present their winning Winston Cup drivers with a trophy containing one of his cars.
And as you see, we've had to make 24, 25 cars of the top Winston Cup drivers. And what we attempted worked real well in April. And this is something that's never been done in motorsports before. So it's a neat concept, and we're just pleased to be a part of the Winston Cup races.
And when the checkered flag falls at Martinsville, David quickly puts together the winning trophy with the proper car for the presentation. Then it's back to making models. In roughly 3 to 4 hours, David can take a 90 to 100 piece kit and have it assembled and race ready. Well, almost. And unlike the real thing, when Dave wrecks a car, it's usually on purpose, and his ends up on a shelf, not in a shop. You name it, he'll make it.
This is the 63 Ford of Ned's that we do. We also offer the other Ned Jarrett car, which was this dark blue with kind of the, I believe it was a Flying 11 look to it. Then we do the Curtis Turner. Everybody's familiar with the red 26 Curtis Turner. And then Nelson Stacy, a lot of people aren't very familiar with Nelson, but he was around. He always drove a yellow car that we found out. And then, of course, Fearless Freddie. Fearless Freddie. You know, who can say anything about Freddie that's bad? You know, he was super. We do his 63 Ford and the 66. Then the Silver Fox, we go back and do the number 17. Of course, the great Leroy Yarborough. Yep, you got to have Leroy Yarborough.
But the most requested race car models are of who else? The King, Richard Petty.
What that is a collector series that we offer that Richard has authorized us to build and sell. We offer all his cars from 1964 through 1991. The cars range in price from $85 up to $1,000, depending on the availability and all.
In the days before Winston Cup racing played before millions of fans, men raced their machines not for profit, but because of their passion to race. And it's that same passion that's reflected in David Knopf's love for making models. And like the sport of Winston Cup racing itself, who knows where it will go.
I always marvel at the detail and workmanship that goes into those model cars and how real they really are, and particularly those that are built by David Knopf. We need to take a short break. Still to come are highlights of the All-Pro Auto Parts 300, and we'll also have the mailbox. You stay with us.
Yellow flags were the order of the day in a crash-filled All-Pro Auto Parts 300 at Charlotte. It looked as if Ward Burton had the car to beat, but he ran out of gas with 12 laps to go. This opened the door for Harry Gant's third Busch win in a row.
One manufacturer has more NASCAR victories than anyone. More NHRA Pro Stock victories than anyone. More consecutive IMSA GTO victories at Daytona than anyone. And more off-road victories in the last 5 years than anyone. That manufacturer is Ford. No wonder nobody enjoys the weekend like Ford.
Where can you go on Goodyear Wrangler radials? So where can you go on Goodyear Wrangler radials? Just about anywhere you want. Put on a set of Goodyear Wrangler radials, and you'll know why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Before this, you never heard of cold filtered. Before this, you never heard of genuine draft taste in a bottle. Now hear this. Get out of the old, get into the cold.
Cold filter taste what it's all about. Never heat pasteurized, so the rich, smooth taste don't cook out. For those who discover its real draft taste, the world can be a very cool place.
Get out of the old, get into the cold. Miller Genuine Draft.
And isn't it true that this auto part did, in fact, come from the defendant's car?
Objection. Prosecution is leading the witness.
Overruled. You may answer the question. This part most definitely came from that car.
And how can you be sure?
I work for Napa Auto Parts. It's my job to be sure.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Napa people are parts experts, so they can answer any question, whatever the case may be.
NASCAR, NHRA, karts, the world of outlaws. Former NASCAR great Neil Bonnet introduces you to the pros who get it done in the exciting, colorful, and dangerous world of auto racing. The winners, Sports Sundays on TNN.
The BGN Brigade heads for Loudon, New Hampshire for the running of the Chevy Dealer 250. It's survival of the fittest on this rough and tumble 1-mile oval, and we'll have the highlights.
Earlier this month, Jack Ingram retired from racing. The Iron Man competed for 29 years, won more than 300 events, and 5 national championships.
NASCAR provided me an opportunity to do what I wanted to do, and I'm certainly proud that I did it, and I'm going to step out of that car, but I'm going to still be around here.
The NASCAR NASCARs are winning the hearts of race fans all over the country. And next week, you'll meet the man who created these colorful characters.
Fans, don't miss the feature next week on Jack Ingram. He's a super guy, a great race driver. He won the NASCAR Busch Grand National Championship 5 times and did so much for the sport of auto racing. Of course, his retirement was planned here for the All-Pro Auto Parts 300. It was marred a little bit by the fact that he didn't make the field for the 300-mile race because he lost a cylinder in a qualifying race on Friday that he was running good enough to get into the field. Well, there was another fellow that ran awfully good in qualifying, and Dan Kenyon is with him on pit road.
Ned, I'm trackside with Ward Burton, and Ward, it seems you've taken a likeness to qualifying your car fast. Both times you've done it have been track records. What's it like to start up here in the front in one of y'all's most prestigious races?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to have good cars here at Charlotte, and I love this racetrack, and I've always had success here. I sat on the pole the first sportsman division race they ever had down here, and hopefully I keep it out front today and stay out of trouble.
Jack Ingram was making his final appearance on the Busch circuit as a driver. Unfortunately, he didn't make the field, but he led the pack around to say goodbye to his many fans. Ward Burton's Buick was thunderous as he set a blistering qualifying lap of 172.574. The first yellow flew on the second lap. A host of cars were involved. The most serious was Hut Strickland, who was finished for the day. On lap 10, Jack Sprague had engine problems, and Cecil Eunice couldn't avoid the situation. He ended up spinning in turn 1. Dale Earnhardt was making his way through the field when he came upon Phil Parsons. Phil pitched his car sideways, and the field went everywhere. Earnhardt was placed in the penalty box for rough driving, forcing him to miss the entire race. Earnhardt claimed there was never any contact between the two. Lap 61 in another turn 4 incident involving, among others, Bobby Labonte and David Green, who parked on the front stretch wall. Lap 97, Dave Rezendes brought out caution number 7 with this turn 2 spin. At the midway point, there was a 5-minute break for fresh tires and a chassis adjustment. Burton's Buick was so strong, he led 162 of the 200 laps. On lap 125, Shauna Robinson had a frightening wreck on the front stretch that silenced the crowd. After hitting the wall, her car caught fire and came to rest on the apron in turn 1. It turned out later that she was okay. During the caution, all the leaders came in except for Ward Burton. They were rolling the dice, hoping for another yellow in this crash-filled event. The treacherous turn 4 scooped up more victims. Robert Presley, Bobby Labonte, Jim Bound, Mike Wallace, and Todd Bodine. But none were serious enough for the caution. On lap 188, the gamble failed. Ward was out of gas and out of victory lane. Harry Gant picked up the pace and took the checkers. While Gant was celebrating in victory lane, we spoke with a disappointed but hopeful competitor, Ward Burton.
We just figured we'd get another caution, and I guess the caution came out about 20 laps after the halfway point, and we really didn't have a decision-making going on. We just thought we'd get another caution, the reason we didn't come in, but that Gwaltney and Big 8 Buick are running great, and Jay Chisholm, they're a super sponsor, and Gwaltney, and we're going to get them before the year's over.
Today's mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
And our question today comes from Jim Podence of Hazleton, Pennsylvania, who writes, does the exhaust header design differ between short track and super speedway engines? Well, Jim, for that answer, we'll go to Lou LaRosa, who builds the engines for the Team 3 Pontiac.
Okay, thank you for your question, Jim. There is a considerable difference. On a short track, we usually run a smaller diameter pipe and a longer overall length, and that gives you bottom end and mid-range. On a speedway such as Charlotte and Daytona, we usually run a larger tube diameter size and a shorter pipe, which gives you more top end. Thank you for writing in.
If you have any race questions, you can write to us at Inside Winston Cup Racing, Box 240417, Charlotte 28224. Or you can now call us at 1-900-84-RACES. Charge is $1 per minute, average call 2 minutes. Fans 18 and under, get your parents' permission before calling. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket free. Fans 21 and under will receive an IWCR cap and T-shirt.
Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show, and you be sure to be with us here next week on TNN for more on Inside Winston Cup Racing. See you then.
Today's show has been brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Winning the world over with 1991 trucks that are built Ford tough. By Miller Genuine Draft, coal filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. Communications for Inside Winston Cup Racing Crew provided by Racing Radios, Forest Park, Georgia, the official communications of NASCAR. Transportation for Inside Winston Cup Racing provided by Fleetwood Enterprises, makers of a full line of excellent recreational vehicles. And by your Carolina Ford dealers. Nobody outsells Ford in the Carolinas.